On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, decisions need to be made in net. And could we get some of those decisions by the end of this week? We just might. Let's talk about that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche, Instagram, and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Make sure you subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. We will do that a little bit later when we talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning and that matchup with the Avs. But like we always do, we are going to get into some morning leftovers, something that we always do, which follows a game. Things that kind of just stuck with us following that game. I have a feeling this was, if you listen to our episode yesterday, a lot of talk obviously about Georgiev. So I have a feeling with this one, it will likely be goalie heavy. Maybe. I don't know. We never really discussed before we go on the air because I like these things to be fresh. So what do you got?
Oh, yes. We are going to be talking goalie. This will be the the return for everybody on YouTube of Statty Von Doom. I have things to back it up, but I do want to make a comment not related to the goalie that I took away, like rewatching bits and bites of this game. I get the Avs came out slow. It's a back-to-back, but my God, boys, we're 10 games in. It's only going to get worse from here, and I don't want to see slow 10 games in. Like on a back-to-back, it's not like you went from Colorado to New York. There was not a lot of traveling there. All you had to do was wake up. So it's
the funny thing is, man, like they've been doing this all year, coming out slow.
Yeah,
and so I kind of was expecting it because it's a back-to-back. Not that that's like, you have a home back-to-back. It shouldn't be like that, but for whatever reason, the every game I felt like this year so far, the Avs have come out a little bit flat, and it's taken them a little while to get their legs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, I made the sound check, like, My Name is Mud, as Primus is breaking up before our very eyes.
Unbelievable. And how dare you? How dare you?
The power of my words, I'm telling you. That's the story of 2024. Watch what I say, because Landy and Primus will listen. But it's concerning. Like, you want to see a little bit more fire out of the gate, and maybe this is one of those things that Bednar will start preaching on, like, hey, guys, 10 games in, you heard him talk in his press conference. He looks at things in stretches, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be number one, is how we come out of the gate in that first 10-game stretch, and it's not ideal. Yes, you got some wins. You also racked up some losses. I would like to see a little bit more fire in the Avalanche in the next 10.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that. Really good conversations, definitely in subtext. Always good conversations over there. Comments going on over on the YouTube channel about the Georgiev situation and the goalie situation, and you're getting both sides of it. We were on opposite sides when it came to that game specifically. I think we're on the same side when it comes to overall how Georgiev is playing this season, but for that game specifically against Chicago, we were kind of on opposite ends. And if you go through comments on that, it seems like people are kind of like torn when it comes to that game too. But I want to get your thoughts on, now that because we record, episodes right after games are over, and especially after losses, emotions sometimes are high. And that's why we do kind of like the morning leftovers, is you sleep on it, you wake up, you kind of just reassess some things. I'm not saying you're changing your mind on how he played, but if you're watching on YouTube, the first bullet point is decisions in net. And the reason why that's up there is because you called up Kapo Kähkönen. So I think I think it's a very interesting thing to do to call him up now with a game going on against Tampa Bay, which again we'll talk about in a little bit. And then you don't play until Saturday, I believe it is, against Nashville in Nashville. So what do you think the Avalanche are doing right now with their and an injured guy? And what are they doing with the backup role right now? If you call up Kähkönen,
I know, and you mentioned like yesterday we were on opposite sides and all this. I think with the morning leftovers, having my 4 hours of sleep, getting back to it, I think I'm even more opposite than I was yesterday. And it's a lot of what you were saying yesterday made me really think, because on top of everything that I juggle, I do watch a lot of NHL hockey, especially like the Devils. I keep an eye on them. We're conditioned, like we're talking like last year, like the comeback kings, like the Avs, they come back. That's what they do. It's so magical. Isn't this a fun team to watch? But you got to think about what you're saying. And I think we've developed a little bit of like almost like a Stockholm syndrome around the Georgiev situation. Like he bails us out, but he's also the one putting us there. And you're talking about yesterday, that game. Well, it's being down so early on so few shots is demoralizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if that's you have all these fresh ideas on a new season, new squad, this is going to be a new year, and you're still doing the same old, we got to climb out of a hole. We got to climb out of a hole. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, you don't want to keep doing that. Right.
And they did it all year last year, and it's worse this year. And I said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again today. Georgiev, yesterday I said it emotionally, is not an NHL starter. Statistically, deep diving into this, he definitely is not currently right now.
Well, and before you even get into that, statistically he might not be. Positionally, he's never been. This was his first shot at being the guy. So, someone was going to give him a shot. It happened to be the Colorado Avalanche. And I didn't like the move when they made it.
Yeah.
We were kind of opposite when they made the move. You kind of liked it at the time. I really didn't. And I kind of turned on him in that first season because I thought he did very well. And then the second season was up and down. And so far this season, it's been rough. So I think you have all collecting all of that. It's tough. It is tough. Like you don't know what you're going to get from him game by game. And that's why I was focusing in on just that singular game. Because for that game, I thought he was okay. I thought he was good enough to win the game if the Avalanche could find some offense. They couldn't do that in that game. But you have enough of games in hand or what to go on for him to really make a decision on how you feel if he is right for you for this team. I want to go back to you so you can read what you were going to get to in stats and stuff like that. Go ahead.
NHL.com. They have tracked 70 goalies so far this season in the first 10-game stretch for the Avalanche and the NHL as a whole that have taken the ice. 70. Everybody keep that in mind when I'm throwing these numbers out here. And just so we're not doing wow, he's really heaping on Georgie, let me throw out a top 10 stat for you. Goals against. He's sitting at 7th out of 70. And the save percentage, he is currently sitting at 67 out of 70 goalies. Goals against percentage, 66th. You know who's...
Hang on, you're muted.
Yes, he is 66th in goals against average, but you know who's below him at 68th? Just Jari. Where is he? Wilkes-Barre.
AHL.
70th? Really, who so? On waivers. Like, everybody below Georgiev right now in these stats are not part of their team.
Not playing. Yeah. You're muted again. Hold on.
And when everything's falling out from underneath you, you have to look and see, hey, this is a problem. And when it comes to NHL starter, you're not even lasting backups right now. And everybody wants to think about, well, he had the most wins. And, well, currently, he's sitting 56th in wins. And where does that one win come? 4-3 over the Ducks in overtime.
So that's for this year you're talking about. Yeah, because they had a singular win. Like it's you don't have anything. So to me, it's that's what I'm saying. Like you have enough. You have enough to go on, and I'm really curious to see what the Avalanche do by the end of this week because you called up Kähkönen on a Tuesday when you're going up against a team that I can't envision that they're going to put him in against in Tampa. So there's a couple points I do want to make. Let's get our first break in, and we come back. We'll finish up talk on Georgiev. We'll talk about Ross Colton. As were we recording yesterday, they're having their press conferences and stuff like that. Didn't sound good. So we'll talk about that coming up next. All right, first we're going to hear from Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. So you can run your game all season long with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, they put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks discounts select players' projections up to 25% to provide even more value to your lineups. And Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going to go off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So download the app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is LOCKEDONNHL as your code to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is over at Prize Picks and the Prize Picks app. Run your game. All right, so with the Avs and they're calling up the Kähkönen from the AHL after a conditioning stint, I thought was very interesting because I just don't feel like you don't want to sit the guy that is kind of got the hot hand in as far as goalies go and Justus Annunen for too long. Like he's playing very well. I totally get you're a back-to-back. You can't play him 2 in a row. You don't want to wear him out that early or for 2 games in a row. So he was going to get a rest there. If you don't play him in Tampa, that's basically a full week that he didn't play. While it's not the end of the world, for someone that's playing pretty well and someone that you really want to see, is this our guy going forward? You want to play him a little bit more. So if never mind the opponent, I think for the opponent, that's the other reason why you want to play him is, Nashville's off to a rough start, but I feel like they're going to turn it around. So either opponent would be a challenge for him, a good challenge, but I would rather see him against Tampa right now. But that's just my opinion. But to call up Kähkönen, and if how I'm going to do it and play Annunen on Wednesday against Tampa, to call up Kähkönen now so he sits there until Saturday is kind of interesting to me. Why wouldn't you just let him stay down there a little bit longer, maybe get another game in before you play him on the weekend? So it makes me think, is something going to happen here with the Avalanche and Georgiev, where they've made their decision? Because they didn't call him up until after this game against Chicago. So it's something to watch before this week is over, and it's something to watch for the game in Tampa. Who's going to be the backup? Who's going to be named the backup? No, some really interesting questions that you'll get fleshed out before the weekend game in Nashville. But I thought it was interesting when they called him up. I was like, that's something to keep an eye on.
I think it's funny that we are completely opposite when it comes to the Georgiev conversation. But when we saw this Kähkönen call up, we're on the exact same page on what's in the tea leaves here. Did they just call up their backup? And
and the thing is, man, I don't want to say we're not on opposite ends of the Georgiev situation as a whole. We were just on opposite ends against how he played against Chicago. If Annunen is taking the reins of this thing, and here's the other part that I was going to get to. And this is something. This is also very, very interesting. If the Avalanche decide where they're going to throw their eggs in the Annunen Kähkönen basket, and that is our tandem going forward, that's a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, who your goalie tandem is a total of $1.8 million. I know, like, it's not all about the money. And hey, if a guy's playing well and you're paying him peanuts, you play him. But that is eye-opening if they go that route. Your goalie tandem dollar amount is low as it is because your number one guy, supposed number one guy, is only making 3.4, which is insanely low for a starting who's supposed to be your A1 goalie. And if you remove that, 2.4 would come off of the books because Kähkönen's making 1. So that is something that I think would be appealing to the Colorado Avalanche to get that off the book.
And I mean, the Avalanche won a Stanley Cup with Darcy Kemper. They had Devin Dubnyk on this team at one point. Like, it's if they can have somebody they can believe in, because again, we've talked about it, how they play in front of them. If the team has somebody they can believe in or somebody they feel like gives them a chance, the team's going to be all right. It doesn't matter who's back there. We used to make that joke all the time. We could get back there and make saves with how the defense plays at times. It's just they have lost faith in Georgiev, and honestly, that little bit of cap help will help.
Oh,
so yeah. And the experiment is done, and we already said before the season started, he could have an incredible year. He could have a terrible year. This is going to be the last year for Georgiev, and I don't think he's going to see the end of the year at this rate.
He might not even make it that far, right? Yeah. Threw it out to people around subtext. Got a lot of responses. When you bring this stuff up, it's like, meat in a lion's den. Brandon said simply, I would move on from Georgiev. I think it would be best for him too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes that is true. Like, you see that all the time where it's just a change of scenery, and it's not like he needs to change the scenery because he's been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's not one of those situations. It's just, hey, things are not going good. You just need, new arena to walk into, new locker room to walk into, new coach to listen to. Sometimes that benefits a person.
And a new locker room that wants to help you out, that knows what you went through and says, hey, we see that. We got you, man.
I don't think that it's like the Avs don't want to help him out. They want to, they would love it if he could get right with them. But is it just, has the ship sailed?
Yeah.
It's sad to say that at this stage in the game, but it just got off to such a bad start. Is it almost impossible to right the ship? I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like, and all of this that I say, I don't hate Georgiev the person or the goalie.
Oh God, no.
It's just not. It's not working right now.
No, this is a business thing. Like,
you
gotta perform.
Exactly.
So, Katie says, I'm in a tough spot with Georgiev. On one hand, it's not his fault that the team plays so poorly in front of him, and putting every defensive lapse solely on his shoulders isn't fair at all. On the other hand, it can't be a coincidence that when he plays, the team is objectively worse. Whether it's fair or not, I think the team doesn't have the confidence in him. And for that reason, we're going to move on sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what you say a lot, like the confidence thing. Like, it's not like hockey locker rooms are like a sacred thing. And guys really try to amp each other up and support each other. And I'm not saying that they don't want to support him. He's on their team. He wears their colors. They want to support him. But like she said, and like we've been saying, like it just takes on a different feel when he's in net compared to Eustace right now.
Remember Avalanche rosters with and without Belmar, how they used to perform with Belmar in the lineup. What did he do on the ice? Really nothing. Mm-hmm. But him being in that lineup, in that locker room, it was a night and day change. You could see that team fired up and enjoying his presence. You can also have the adverse effect, and I think that's what we're seeing going on here.
And Lisa says, I think if Kähkönen plays halfway decent, the job is his.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's talking about the backup role there. I like to think that management gives Kähkönen a couple starts before making the decision, though. Aside from Georgiev's play, if he truly has lost the confidence of his teammates, I don't know how you keep him around. She might be right in how many. It is going to be interesting to see how many starts they will give Kähkönen. Because again, like you don't want Eustace to just sit there and just collect dust. So the longer that you're going to give Kähkönen a start, like 2 starts over the course of the next 2 weeks, and then make that I don't know if they want to wait that long.
Yeah,
I think they want to kind of make this decision, live with it, with that, whatever you're going to do, whatever you choose, you have to stick with that. Maybe until the trade deadline, if you want to address it then, and let it play out. Whatever you choose, if it's Annunen Georgiev, if it's Annunen Kähkönen, that's what you're going to go with. And then you have now till the trade deadline to really say, okay, are we happy with it or not? And then you can address it at that point in time.
Honestly, you could scale this back. I think this was decided. This could have been handled in the offseason, but he was one sickness away from being pulled, and he got that second chance in the playoffs. If that sickness never happened, we could be having a completely different offseason and completely different beginning to this season too. So he got a little extension because of one sickness in the playoffs.
Yeah. And then finally, Cody says, I don't think the Avs are done with him now unless things continue, but it might be worth it to send him down to the AHL for a bit to get away from the noise and see if he can reestablish himself and regain that confidence. Then he can rejoin the team with a renewed attitude later on. I'll give that one a big maybe, Cody. You never know. He's been up with this team long enough where if he goes down to the AHL and he comes back, he's going to remember what happened up here. And the first goal you let in, if it's a softie, is going to be like, oh God, nothing's changed. So it's all psyche right now. And maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to go down to, to Loveland and just, I love how he says, get rid of the noise, just filter out the noise. It's definitely what he needs right now, but that noise is waiting for you whenever you return. You're muted again.
But on the flippity flip of that, it's not like we're rehabbing, giving one more run to Waugh, Brodeur, or Hack. Have we seen the best of Georgiev, and that's still semi-average? What are we hoping for? What are we investing all this time and giving all these games and up and down theoreticals? What are we hoping for here? I think we have seen the best you're going to get out of Georgiev at this point.
That is what this all revolves around. If this is the best you can get from him, and you're confident that you can get at least that with Annunen, probably better from Annunen, and at least what he's given you from Kapo Kähkönen, what is the point in keeping him around? And again, that's not against him. It's the dollars thing. I'd rather save the money and have 2 much cheaper options that are giving you what you're already getting. Maybe probably better.
Yeah.
So that's what it really all comes down to for the Avalanche. It's a numbers game in the salary cap and in the stat sheet. And for both of them, they don't really make sense right now if Annunen keeps playing the way he does and Kähkönen gives you something.
A pulse.
Something. Yeah, right. So we'll see where it goes. I'm going to be really interested to see who the starter is for tomorrow. If it's Kähkönen, and depending on how he plays, if he plays well, what's Thursday going to look like?
What is going to be a long gap between the games?
Yeah, crazy. So, all right, let's get our last break in. Come back. We'll talk about Ross Colton quickly and Tampa Bay Lightning coming to town for was that Wednesday? Wednesday. My days are all messed up. I don't even know what today is. So it's almost Halloween. So it's right behind the holiday season, and my mind goes to mush right around that time. So, all right, let's do that next. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can bet $5, and you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So, of course, when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. Of course, that is America's #1 sportsbook. Get over there right now. So when we were recording after the game yesterday, Ross Colton, we knew, he didn't return. And then Jared Bednar was giving his press conference as we were recording. And immediately, like, wasn't even one of those things where it was like, well, we'll see, he's in a little bit of pain. We'll reevaluate him tomorrow. His immediate answer was, yeah, he's going to be out a while.
Yeah.
And he was already in a walking boot. And those two things are don't add up to something that is going to be good. So out a while, I don't know what a while is, but when you look at the play, took a hard shot right on the instep of his foot. I would have to think that's a broken foot. And broken bones usually take 6 weeks to heal, depending on the severity of the break. I don't know. So this is just like, there's this thing going over on X of it's like the Avalanche lines with their jerseys and just crossed out with all the guys that we're missing right now. And he's just another one that's added to the list. It's just like this keeps happening to the Avalanche. Yeah, you might get Lehkonen back here very soon, but this is another thing that we always talk about, Kyle. The hockey gods giveth and they taketh away. How many times did that season a couple years ago that was just a revolving door of injuries? How many times would we get somebody back and then someone would be out that very day or during that game? God, I hope we don't start that trend again this year.
Thankfully, the 2020 COVID season got us all prepped for that when people were literally up till game time, maybe 5 minutes in the game, Jack Johnson. But
crazy.
I have a feeling they took that skate off and it looked like he was probably wearing the Utah Hockey Club jersey around his foot.
Yeah. Remember, wasn't it Nichushkin who had his foot was all like just black? That one.
They took off that skate and were dumping out pieces of his foot. And Bednar was probably just like, okay, we're good.
A while.
I don't need an X-ray. We know what's going on here.
Crazy. So, and it stinks anyway because he's a big part of your team and what you're doing. Anyway, even more so now, like how he started this season, he's that guy that stepped up. Clearly, he's scoring goals out of his mind. He's up there with the top line, fits in comfortably. He's on the first power play unit, fits in comfortably. So he's giving you everything that you need when all these other guys who are out haven't come back yet, and now he joins them. So now who's the guy that steps up next?
And you know what? Another little sprinkle of salt in that wound. Who's coming to town when you're playing the best hockey of your career? Your former team.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even really put those two together yet.
Like you can really put on a show for your former team. Like when we talked to Adam Denker about where Ross Colton's place was on that team, they had high hopes for him.
They loved him. Yeah.
And it just didn't pan out. And what better way to really just like stick it to your team than show them, hey, I'm one of the hottest things up. You see the goals in the league right now. That's me, baby, me. Yeah. And now he's not going to be a part of that. So it's next man up. But we've said that for the past 5 years.
Exactly. Now. Yeah. I don't know who. I'd love to see go in that top line because I'm just singing his praises every day now. It's Kovalenko.
Yeah.
But who else would go in there right now? I don't know.
It's going to probably be Miles Wood.
They've done that before.
Yeah,
they have. And he's playing well enough to give him a shot. But it's either way. You have the Lightning coming to town, and it's funny, man, because when the Lightning kind of they made their decision, like we're not going to bring Stamkos back, and this is where like. A lot of times, like front offices know better than the fan base, and we don't like to admit that because we all think like, hey, and I get it. I get why Lightning fans would want Stamkos to stay around and be a lifer. That's a good feeling. That's what you want, and some of your all-time players on any team. But front offices do what front offices do, and they looked at numbers and they looked at how this team is constructed. And they made that decision right now. This is right now. might be a different conversation at the end of the season. It's looking like a good decision. And some of that could be, with Stamkos, that's a brand new team, brand new system. A lot of guys on that team. We talked about this a lot in the offseason. It's going to take time for those guys to gel. I don't think anybody really thought to get off to this much of a rocky start, but and him specifically, but it is. And Tampa, they're off to a good start. They're off to a really good start right now. Are they 4-2? And I just had the standings up here.
They are 6-3-0.
6-3. 6-3-0. Yep. So they've won 2 in a row. So they've played 2 less games than Florida. So they got 2 games in hand with them, and they're 3 points behind them right now in the standings. And Florida's just going to, keep their head, way above everybody else. So they're keeping pace with them. Will that continue? Can't say. But right now, they're playing pretty good hockey. So they're coming into town pretty confident.
And you heard Bednar's comments on how he looks at the games and stretches. You have put yourself at 500 hockey. So if you lose this, you're sub 500. But if you win this game against Tampa, you're building on something. And that's what Bednar said. He ideally wants 12 points in those 10-game stretches. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the games that you want to steal those 2 points. And you got to set a tone, especially with the ups and downs in the goalie position. Ross Colton out. You can't just throw up your hands and say, here we go again. No, if you want to go get the cup again, you've got to start fighting. And games like this is where you need to start.
Yeah. And the Avs have against Vasilevsky, they've done pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have his number every once in a while. So, but he is, one of the best goalies in the league, but we'll see what that matchup gives you. The Lightning are in the midst of a central role right here. They just played the Predators where they won in overtime. Now they're playing the Avalanche. So that Predators game was at home for them. And now they play 4 games straight on the road, all against Central Division. So 5 in a row total against the Central. Predators, Avs, Wild, Jets, and Blues. So, yeah, I mean, they're getting their fill of this. They're getting those games over with early. So, but I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a really good game. They got a great coach. Obviously, we have our coach. So you get these matching of wits. They have otherworldly goalie. We'll see who's in goal for the Avalanche. You're right. Avs, they want to come back and atone for that loss that they just didn't have it against Chicago. So they want to come back from that. So this is, I think it's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
And especially you really want to steal the 2 points here because you see this team again in a month. And I mean, let's be real here. This team's going to look completely different in a month from now. So if you steal a win here, it's going to be a lot more momentum when you see him again on the 25th of November.
Cody on subtext says, I don't think Tampa is what it used to be, but I'm thinking 3-2 going either way. Is he just playing both sides out there? Is he just saying 3-2 game and
3-2? Somebody just make it happen.
3-2. Somebody have the 3, somebody have the 2.
Yep,
that's basically what he's saying. Okay, that's cheap, Cody.
You know
Come
what, Cody?
On, man. Put your name behind a team.
I'm there. I think somebody's going to win.
Yes, I can guarantee that. I will go to FanDuel and bet on that.
I will shave my head if there's not a winner of this game.
What are you thinking though? What do you think outcome of this one's good? It's tough to say because you don't know the goalie.
That's
like once you get that announcement tomorrow, maybe you can make a little bit more of an informed guess. But as we're standing here right now, we don't know who that is. It's a little bit tougher to give a prediction.
This screams overtime to me, and this screams like a 5-4 overtime, and it's not. It's going to be ugly again, and we're going to be relishing in that break until the next game.
I haven't heard that Lehkonen is back for this game, but I will say whenever Lehkonen returns, the prediction for that game will be overtime winner.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that if his first game back's an overtime winner?
Oh,
in Ball Arena. Good Lord. Place to go crazy. All right. That'll wrap it up for today, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about this game and how it goes. So make sure you tune in for that. But for today, it's going to wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Congratulations, people. Just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby is that much closer to being a Colorado Avalanche.
I wonder if he thinks about us just as much.
Never.